There's not enough land to build more houses. There's not enough money to build those houses, even if we did have the land. Absolute rubbish. Last year, the Campaign to Protect Rural England conducted a survey of 344 brownfield land registers, and they came to the conclusion that their results showed that there are 27,342 hectares of brownfield land sites, land that has been previously built on or used. This was only last year, and that has a capacity to build over 1.2 million homes. As far as the money goes to build these, I can say from the experience that we have from the inquiries who inquire about investments and developments, there are so many individuals and corporations out there who have millions, some of them hundreds of millions, at their disposal, and they are desperately looking for places to utilize that money for investment. Even overseas funds with large pools of money looking for places to invest. There's absolutely no reason that the government couldn't use incentives to direct these people to build houses now when we need them most. For the investor, this would be an absolutely fantastic opportunity, because you can't compare building houses en masse to the cost of one self-build, which often costs disproportionately more than when you're building 300 or 500 houses, or even 1,000 or more. The markup that the big developers make on these properties is absolutely horrendous, and the big companies, the big developers, try to keep a stranglehold by reinvesting all of this money into their land banks to prevent other people from building, so that they can build when it suits them, build what suits them, to maximize their profit at your expense. So there is the land to build these properties. The money is out there to invest in building those properties, and as well as helping to house the population and ease the crisis, it would also generate so much money for the economy. But it seems that this is not just an obstacle. This is an obstacle that's been placed there by design for whatever reason. I'll leave that to you to conclude why they are doing this. One thing that I can say is that it's my opinion that everything the government appears to do in order to help people is not to help them at all. Let's take the stamp duty holiday, for example, over the last couple of years. That may seem like a kind gesture from the government, handing over millions of pounds in lost stamp duty revenue. But what they don't mention is that the ensuing bubble that they created in property prices returned them tenfold in more death tax duty. That's all they care about. How can they take more of what you own? They don't care that there is an entire lost generation who's unable to buy and increasingly are struggling to even rent. As I've said previously, I strongly support the AST buy-to-let sector because it is needed in this country. There's a reason that it was introduced in 1988, because our workforce needs to be mobile, because people move around with their jobs. And the harder it becomes to rent a property for 6 months or a year and then move on, the harder it is for companies to recruit staff from other parts of the country. That's the very reason that it was introduced. And unfortunately, last year, 15% of residential stock was bought by institutional investors. And once property goes into the hands of institutional investors, for the main part, it will never return to the market again. It is gone. They own and control it. And subsequently, they then control everyone who lives in these properties. The problem being is that once people do manage to acquire a property from an institution, housing association, whatever the case may be, they're trapped because it's not easy to find another one. So the chances are they'll be uncomfortable to move with a job or take a job opportunity in a different part of the country to better themselves because they'll lose their home. So they are trapped. That's the very reason that we do need private landlords, and we need to make sure that a certain section of the property market is available for short to medium term rental to help the workforce. At the same time, with all of this land that's available, that is not greenbelt, it is not our green and pleasant countryside, it is brownfield sites. These properties could be developed by the investors, and they could be offered as build to rent, build to sell, and even where they're rented, they could be offered with an incentive to buy after 3, 5, 10 years at a discount, which would still leave the developers a handsome profit because, as I said, the markup on building hundreds of properties as compared in relation to the value of each property is horrendous. It is staggering. If most people were aware what it costs to build 500 properties compared to what those properties would actually sell for at current prices, even if they have fallen a little, there would be national mutiny, really there would be. So I do not subscribe to the argument that there is no land to build property. I do not subscribe to the argument that there is no money to build properties, because if it were done correctly, the government would not have to spend a single penny, and yet they do nothing to help improve the property market. And that's before we start on the 600,000 empty properties that are unfit for use or derelict, which once again, thanks to changes in stamp duty and now capital gains allowance, there's even less chance of small and individual investors and developers buying these properties to renovate, because the government has made it even more challenging for them to do so and still make a profit. I don't believe anything happens by accident. I believe it happens by design, because these people are not stupid. That's why they are in a position where they do what the hell they like. They rob us blind, left, right and centre, and we let them get away with it. No matter which side, I do not support either. I can say quite fairly that I hold each side of the house with equal contempt. The point I'm making is, so should you. Just a thought, and I thought I would share it with you, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on the matter. That's my rant for today, and I'll see you in the next video.